Welcome back to Dr. Introspect TV, and it's your host, Dr. Introspect. And if you are listening or watching this video, that means you have followed the Bridgerton rabbit hole all the way down here. This is the second part of my video. Don't worry, you can totally watch this Bridgerton compilation in whichever order you like. It's not going to affect anything whatsoever. In this video, I'm going to be doing a comparative analysis between the Regency era, which is a time setting for this show, versus our current year 2021. I expect this video to stimulate some dialogue and possible debates, so definitely leave your thoughts and ideas in the comment section below. If you have other ideas for future videos on this channel, definitely leave that in the comment section below. Don't forget to smash that like button. It really helps our channel and keeps me informed about the kind of contents that you like. If you are new to the channel, definitely hit the subscribe button and click the notification bell so that you stay updated anytime we drop a video, which is basically almost every week. And of course, to all our oldies and goodies from day one, subscribers and community, thank you for hanging with us and thank you for coming back. Now let's get into this video. So I'm going to be doing a comparison between the Regency era and the 2021 era that we're living in, post-COVID era, I would say. So that was initially what I wanted this analysis to be on, but I had other sections I needed to break down and I figured I wouldn't do enough justice without talking about them, so straight into this section. I just want to compare between that time and this time. So in this story, in the setting of this era, women were treated as property and they were passed on from their father to their husband and sometimes their brothers, depending on whether the father or husband is alive or dead. And it's so sad, but it's actually still the same, especially in many third world countries in West Africa. There are places there where they say it's African tradition for the brother to just take the wife, and it's not like taking the wife to, just help her. They own her like property. A woman could not be by herself on her own, and we see that happening in the Bridgerton family where they had lost their dad, and Anthony, the first son and first child, is required to step into the shoes and become the man of the family. What was really touching here was how he was also required to be the man over his own mother. I thought that was interesting, how he would bypass information from her and he would manage her the same way he was managing the household and the rest of the family. And that for me was just bewildering. I'm like, this woman is older than you in years and experience. She bathed you, she raised you. She is the elder in this situation. She has more experience, but somehow he was treating his own mother like a child simply because she's female. And I hate to say it, it's not so different from how it is today. Women are still treated like property in many, many regions of the world, several centuries later. Another thing I want to talk about is how women had no say in choosing their spouses. They had no say in decision-making processes whatsoever, not even in their husbands. And there are two instances here where we see that happen. Here, Anthony Bridgerton, Daphne's brother, decides who he's going to marry Daphne off to without her choice, her consent, and she refuses this person, and he still continues to proceed with his decision, insisting that he knew what was best for Daphne better than she knew for herself. Another scenario we see here is how Anthony decides to duel with Simon at dawn without Daphne's consent. So this happened when Daphne and Simon were in the garden and they had kissed each other. Sorry, spoilers if you haven't seen this. And he felt that Daphne had now been ruined and soiled and she would never find a husband now, and therefore he has to defend her honor. And when I think about it, honestly, I don't feel like it has anything to do with defending her honor. I feel like it's just men defending their egos. Because if it's about the woman's honor, really, then why does the woman not have a say? Why didn't you ask Daphne what she would like to be done instead of making a decision on her behalf? So I definitely felt that this whole duel thing was just men busting their balls with each other because of their ego. Because the last name in the family as it is Bridgerton. So it affects the men who get to keep the last name, because at least she could be married off and be with someone else, but their family name, which the men get to keep, gets to have this stain, in quotes, because she was alone in a garden with a man, which is utterly ridiculous. There are a lot of boys that fight other men when they feel like their sisters are disrespected, and we tend to think that's cool, and yeah, that's cool, like you're defending your sister. However, there are many times where it's not always about defending the sister. Sometimes it's just, how dare you do this to my sister? So it's not like my sister is a different human being that you hurt and her feelings matter, but you have an object that is mine. Like if someone scratches your car and you get into a fight with them, you don't know how your car feels because it's an object, but you feel that your ego is bruised. You feel like you were disrespected because someone had the guts to disrespect you by hurting your car. So a lot of times it can be this situation, but it's even more apparent in this story in that time. Something else I felt was kind of touching was how men were supposed to carry all the burden on their shoulders and show no weakness or emotion. They were supposed to have all the answers and handle business all the time. And this was obvious and apparent in the case of the Lord and Lady Featherington. So Lord Featherington had done some shady things and made some terrible decisions, gambled and squandered all their family's money away. He was owing people, and he kept this secret away from his wife Portia. And I thought this was really interesting, because here he was, you and your wife are supposed to be a team. At least that is what we think now in 2021. But here he is managing his wife like he's managing a situation. He just kept her in the dark like she's one of his children instead of his partner in life. And that's that masculine thing we're talking about. But then I kind of felt really sorry for him, especially when I saw him break down in tears, because it's possible at that time a man is not supposed to be emotional. Even when you know that your family is about to go broke, you can't come home and tell your wife we're about to go broke, because then you're a failure as a man and you've ruined your family and you're a failure. So you have to hide that shame and you have to carry this whole burden for yourself. I felt so sorry for him. Someone having to carry all of that pain on their shoulders alone by themselves, it can kill someone. People can die from shouldering a lot of this emotional burden of life alone by themselves. So how does that compare today? Not so different. Yes, we have people that are encouraging men to take their mental health seriously. We are trying to encourage society to create spaces where men can be allowed to be vulnerable and have emotions and display those emotions, as opposed to just leaving those spaces for women alone. So there is a little bit of growth in that area. However, we still have so far to go, because a lot of men still live their lives this way. Another thing I want to comment on is how men could have mistresses and do just about anything, but a woman could not even be alone in the garden with a man. The double standards are ridiculous. Daphne is how old? Even her younger sister, Eloise, looks like she is barely still a teenager, and they're still trying to talk about marriage and finding a man and all of those things. And there were men there that had beards all over. They were significantly older and they had not been married, but they had been fathering children, sleeping around, having mistresses, and it was fine. But a woman could not be alone in a garden with a man. This is just something to behold, because today, in time and space, in 2021, men can father children, and sometimes they get pats on the back for being so active and having such powerful semen that continuously scores goals, right? But a woman gets pregnant and she's a hoe. So a woman can go into a garden by herself now, but the double standard still remains. The whole concept of victim blaming is still a thing. You know, when women go to visit a man and then she gets violated there, they say, why were you there? Why did you go and visit him? The onus is not on the man to behave himself. The onus is on her for being there. You know, she walks into a garden and they're like, why were you in the garden by this time? You're a woman, you shouldn't be there. You know, and instead of trying to instill better behavior for the person that is obviously committing a crime, you try to manage the woman. Don't wear these kind of things. Don't go to this kind of place. It's 2021 and somehow things are not so different. Women also didn't have the luxury to choose who they wanted to be. I'm watching this and you start watching it head on, and at first I'm grateful. I'm in 2021 where a woman can study all the way to become a doctoral degree holder, and women are presidents of countries, for example New Zealand. But then it still feels like in some way some things really have not changed. I felt so terribly sorry for Eloise, who wanted to explore the wonder of knowledge and creativity. She wanted to go to school. She wanted to get a degree, but women were not allowed to in that time. Only men were. And it was painful that she was not allowed the choice to say, I don't want to be a debutante. I don't want to jump into this love-seeking marriage thing just yet. I have no interest in it. I want to pursue academic writing and intellectual pursuits. She was denied that simply because of her gender. That was just painful. Imagine being denied such wonder of knowledge and discovery because you were born at the wrong time. There are places in the world today where gender inequality is still an issue. It's an SDG goal that is still struggling in some regions. Yes, in present day 2021. So on one hand, I am grateful. I by no means take for granted the opportunities that I have, and some of us have. However, there is still much work to be done in ensuring that we strive further for equality. With Shonda Rhimes being the backbone behind this story, and we see the black community having a space here in the story at this time, which is not something you see happen often in such kind of stories. It's almost as if the black race is wiped off from the surface of the earth at around this time, but no, we're still here. Now, whether or not things like this actually happened, it seems more fiction than fact, but you guys can look it up and let us know in the comments. But Simon's dad was a duke, and we found out that their black lineage had to be exemplary for them to remain noble in that society. So you couldn't just be an ordinary black man, you had to be the best. And when I heard that, it made so much sense, because today that is literally what it's like today. Especially in countries like the United States, people talk a lot about how hard the black people have to work to have anything. And I believe the struggle is even worse for women, black women. The odds are so much higher. It's not enough for you to just go to college as a black man. You have to have a 4.0 GPA. You have to have extracurriculars that match no one. You will essentially not have a life of your own, because you have to be top of everything and stand out if you're going to get a chance. So that was a plight that Simon's father had that I could definitely resonate with, and I think a lot of people are going to watch that and catch that and resonate with it, and see how that is still a reflection of present day 2021. Now finally, the last thing I want to talk about in making this comparison is the whole issue about female sexuality and why it was kept a secret. I could not really understand for the life of me why they kept that a secret, because nobody really understood between Eloise and her friend, and even Daphne, who is now married, didn't understand where babies come from. They didn't understand lovemaking, sex. Everything was like hidden, and that was such another double standard, because a lot of all her brothers had not been married. 3 of them older than her have not been married, and most of them, like Anthony Bridgerton for example, had a mistress, and he has been having sex for a very long time. And here's Daphne about to get married, and she doesn't even know what sex is. Her first experience is the first time she actually gets to know what it is. They talk a lot about love, and love, not even romance, just love someone and you spend your rest of your life with him, and a lot of those talk that fills the head of women in this place. Get married, find a suitor, all this stuff, but they don't tell them about sex. I feel that they did that because they didn't want women to know, they didn't want women to explore. It's just another way that they kept control of a woman's sexuality in that time. Because one, you have sex before you get married, and then you're no longer pure, and nobody is going to want you anymore. You're not going to have suitors who have been having sex, by the way, with different people. So they just erase it completely from dialogue. Growing up with your mom, and you learn everything from how to sing, to how to sew, to how to perform, to play the piano, to be the perfect bride. But nobody teaches you about where babies come from, which is bewildering. And now, if you don't even have that information, how are you even going to understand the concept of your own pleasure in such an activity? So comparing that today, at least we have sex ed classes in school. So even if you're not going to know about that with your mom or anything, the school will make sure you know about that. They'll teach you about that. But the parental relationship with regards to sexual information and empowering their children is still lacking today, especially in the African community. I think the most you have is your mom just telling you when you have your period, okay, you're a woman now. If a man touches you, you're going to get pregnant. And sometimes they go as far as telling you if you just sit beside him, which I've always thought is a wrong way. You're better off empowering your children with information than letting them discover it on their own through bad influences, because then you have no control over that in any way. So it's better you explain, this is what happens with sex. Yes, people do it as when they love each other, but there are risks. Explain the risks. Explain, chances of getting unwanted pregnancies, STDs, incurable STDs, how that can affect their life, how you have to be ready to raise children. That's a responsibility. How much of a responsibility that partaking in sexual activity is, even though it's also pleasurable. So that I think that is something we can definitely do more of right now in 2021, especially in our African communities. Also, sex education in African schools is still not a thing. We could definitely benefit from them including that in our curriculum. But do you know what is really fascinating about this whole thing? The outfits in those days were so sexual. So they were wearing corsets, and they had bustiers that would raise your breasts all the way to your chin, and you would be in so much pain to look sexually appealing to men. So you're basically objectified. No one tells you about sex. No one prepares you for sex. You have no sexual anything. You're being married off very quickly, and you get into the bedroom, you don't know anything, which is convenient, because if you don't know anything, then you're not going to participate in your own pleasure. You don't know what pleasure is. You don't know how it's supposed to feel. So you essentially just lay there for someone to do something with your body that you have gone and taking so many pains to make look desirable enough for them. You are not factored into the equation in any way. Talk about sexual objectification. So no, I'm not going to tell you about sex, but we can dress you up and have your breasts just hanging out, half of it just exposed, and you're looking sexual, but you don't know anything about sex. It was ridiculous. Today we have women definitely taking their own control about their sexuality, having sexual agency, and with the advent of the birth control pill, women are able to explore their sexuality without fears of getting pregnant, and sex is not just for procreation anymore. With contraception, women are able to participate in something men have been enjoying for a very, very long time. And I think we're not quite all the way to experiencing how far this could go yet. I still feel like we're still at the edge of the beginning. I know it's been several centuries since the Regency era, and I know the world feels like women are probably going out of control now, with lyrics from the Cardi B's and the Megan Thee Stallions talking a lot about their sexuality. It looks like women are going overboard, but I think women are just getting started. Okay, so that's the end of my comparison between the Regency era and 2021. And if you made it through to the end, well done. If you enjoyed it and you want more, definitely catch my analysis in the second part of this video. I'll catch you in my next video. I love you. Bye.